Viewers, welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This is a show that talks about everything about personal injuries and pertinent to you, the viewer. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a lawyer of over 25 years' experience. With me tonight I've got John Karantzis, a partner in a law firm in workers' compensation.
Hi,
Good
Tony.
evening, John.
Hi, viewers. Hi, Nuncio.
Hi, John.
And Nuncio Tartaglia, a partner in a law firm that deals with insurance work.
Tony, John, viewers, welcome.
Viewers, tonight we've got a riveting episode. We've got two hero firefighters. They're going to be talking about their experiences.
However, Tony, before we get to what's in the news, 30 years in the legal profession. Congratulations.
Thanks, John. And today's my youngest boy's 22nd birthday. Happy birthday, Manny.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And also 6 years of the PI show, Tony.
It's been a long time, and the beauty of it is a lot of viewers are watching the show. So as long as people are watching it, we're prepared to produce it. Isn't that right?
Congratulations, Tony, and
Thanks,
we
Nons.
keep picking on.
That's
All
it.
right.
That's it.
Tony, now, what's in the news?
Viewers, there's been some real sensational stories. We're going to be doing the firefighters, so there's going to be a lot of stories about firefighters and their plight and everything else that goes down. But before that, John, we've got this story of Jason Gann and your client, Joe Hosney.
Well,
Just in case
Worth
the
to come
viewers
back
aren't
to
aware,
this.
they commonly call him Wilfred the dog, isn't
Yeah,
it? Right?
Wilfred the dog.
Wilfred the dog.
It's
Yeah.
apparently a comedy series, Tony.
Tell us a bit about what's been happening.
Tony, Jason Gann, the defendant in this matter, the County Court of Victoria, Judge Sandra Davis, made a judgment against him, a very clear judgment. He actually didn't want to defend his case. He's now trying to get out of it in America, and we've got a court proceeding coming up in America, Tony.
Okay. Nons, can I just say this? His counsel, a very eminent QC, got up before the judge and said, Your Honour, the defendant wants to have no part of this case. That's his exact words.
Look, that's indicative of the article, Tony. He said it was in Herald Sun recently, John, and I think he said he doesn't want to pay the judgment amount on principle.
On principle. I'm not sure which principle he's talking about, especially when the county court has ordered him to pay that, but we'll find out, I guess.
And John, the other thing too is this. He struck a deal with the Victorian Worker Authority to pay back X amount of dollars.
Exactly.
He's reneged on that deal as well, hasn't he?
It looks like it. He again says on principle he's not going to pay that.
Does he think he's above the law, John?
Well, look, that's for the court to decide, Nuncio, but it's very strange that you've got a judgment of the County Court of Victoria, Judge Sandra Davis, a very eminent and well-known judge. He fronted that court, and you were there, Tony, that
Yes,
day also.
I was.
And he, via his barrister, said straight out to the judge, I do not want to defend this case. He hopped on, he went back to the Tullamarine Airport and went back to LA.
Okay. He says now the reason why he agreed with the case proceeding against him and he made certain admissions was because he didn't want a criminal conviction. Viewers, he didn't get a criminal conviction. That's why he's still working in the US, because you can't get to the US if you've got a criminal conviction.
He pled guilty, however, with no criminal conviction.
Yes. Now, so what he's done is his assault has rendered this fellow totally out of work, never work again.
He's severely mentally ill.
But he's got the audacity to say that I didn't want a criminal conviction so I could work in the US. So he's working, your client,
Oh
gone.
yes, oh yes,
Yeah.
and as you can see, his series is on TV. It's selling in the DVD stores.
Very successful.
I think he's very successful, Tony.
He is. Let's go on to the fires, because I mean it's been the raging story, pardon the punt, the raging story in Victoria for the last 6 to 8 weeks. We've got bushfires throughout the whole state.
So dangerous.
We've got our fire resources stretched to the max. You've got Craig Lapsley on the TV, who, mind you, holds himself up very, very well, saying that they're stretched to the max, fire warnings all over the place. How's this story, Nunce, about Mickleham Kilmore fire? Tell us a bit about what's been going on there.
Yeah, look, that's been of the most recent events. There's been, widespread fires in the Mickleham area just, a couple of weeks ago, and it's caused devastation, like, all fires unfortunately can do. And Look, Tony, just sad because you said a lot of people have lost their homes. There's been injuries, livestock. The whole lives have been turned upside down, and it just brings to light how one day your life can just change like that.
And that you need to be insured, don't you, Nuncio?
It just highlights the issue that you need to have protection for days and events like this. If TPD, which is total permanent disablement, income protection, trauma cover. Because if you lose everything, then you got nothing there.
And not only that, there's the issue of underinsurance. A lot of people are not insuring enough to cover the loss of their house.
Exactly.
Now, you don't want that to occur.
John, I think what's really topical is this. There's been a lot of talk about fire warnings and
prevention.
Other things. Do you stay and fight, or do you get up and go? And there's an article in the paper where you've got a man with his kids trying to hose down a fire. He's got no shoes on.
And no
He's
shirt.
No proper attire. I mean, okay, you want to stay back and fight a fire, but surely you can't be doing it like that.
It looks like, Tony, we need an education. We need the public needs education as to what to do when a firestorm is upon you.
I think they're calling for, similar to the TAC, a big campaign about what to do in a fire, how to act and what the appropriate response is.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I wouldn't know what to do.
For the uninitiated, they really don't know what they're getting themselves into, because I went to Kinglake just after their Black Saturday, and I heard stories of fire fronts that are 200 metres high, and they sound like a roaring train coming through or jumbo jet, and people hang around there with hoses. I don't think it's going to work.
I mean, all I'd know what to do is to get into the car and just drive off. I'm not sure if that's the right thing. I don't know. That's why, yes, I think a media campaign, a publicity campaign, telling people, advising people what to do in a firestorm.
I think when you weigh it all up, safety and survival comes first, and then property, I hate to say it, you have to rebuild, start again.
Oh, yes.
Australians have been doing it for years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad, but, everyone chips in and helps.
It was odd with that article. I think they were letting some people back to their homes. And look, again, I'm like you, John, a bit naive about what to do. But, I would have thought when there's fires raging, you just get out of there and
Stay away.
Don't let them go back.
Yeah.
Because that could be disastrous.
John, sad story. The hero firefighters, Brian Potter, died.
Yes, died recently, Tony. The cancer got to him, and luckily he had an opportunity to say farewell to all his family and friends. But in the end, Tony, his work cover claim was never accepted.
I'm astounded because he had multiple cancers throughout his body. He had
many.
an alphabet aneurysm, angina, cancer of the bladder, bowel, lymph nodes, liver, lungs, heart attack, melanoma, skin cancers, osteoporosis, stroke, ulcers, duodenal and gastric. But
Look,
anyway.
Tony had a plethora of cancers. Victorian Work Cover Authority should hold their head in shame. They fought him all the way. His claim was never accepted. It's ludicrous, and this is what this episode is about, isn't it, Tony?
It is.
To make sure that presumptive legislation in the Victorian Parliament is put through, that firefighters, when they contract cancer, are deemed a work injury.
Automatic access to compensation.
Exactly.
Well, John, Greg Cahill will be coming on the show just after the break to talk about that.
Yes.
And also we've got the hero, Andrew Wood. So viewers, please stay tuned. This is a very riveting episode. Viewers, welcome back to the show. As promised before the break, we've got two distinguished firefighters that are both heroes. Greg Cahill was recently treated for kidney cancer and survived. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, Tony.
And Andrew Wood was the firefighter that went in and rescued the police officers out of a fire in the Middle Park apartment. Good evening, Andrew.
Hi, Tony. Hi, John.
Can I start with you, Greg?
Yes.
You've been a firefighter for 28 years.
Correct.
and you've served the community, distinguished service. Tell me, what happened to you? You were working and you went for a routine checkup.
Yeah, that's right. In July last year, I went to the GP just for a general checkup, and part of that checkup, he sent me on for further scans, which revealed I had a tumour in my kidney. And the result was that it was cancer, and the kidney had to be removed.
And it was stumbled upon. It was a routine chance that you discovered it. Is that correct?
That's correct, Tony. I went for something else to be looked at, which turned out to be nothing. So I was very lucky. I had a very good GP, and yeah.
John, would it surprise you that we've got a situation with Greg where WorkSafe has rejected his claim that the cancer is work-related,
Yes.
notwithstanding the fact that 3 years earlier, a colleague who's been in the fire services for 25 years was accepted for the same condition?
Tony, I'm not surprised. WorkCover's policy is very clear. They want to treat every claim made by firefighters on a case-by-case basis. In Greg's case, unfortunately, your claim's been rejected, Greg.
That's correct.
However, colleagues of yours, their claim has been accepted. It's a case-by-case basis. It's not good enough, Tony, is it?
Well, we're going to have we'll discuss it later on. We're going to talk about the presumptive legislation which has been passed by the federal government and other states, also South Australia, Western Australia and a few other states in Australia.
Exactly.
But before that, Andrew, you're the hero firefighter, went to Middle Park with a group of police officers. Tell us a bit about what happened.
Yeah, look, the incident was a pretty routine call. We often get called to help people or gain access, I guess, for the police. Look, we went along. I won't go into too much detail as it's an ongoing case at the moment. However, we went into a building to assist a person who was troubled, and as a result, there was gas in the building and an explosion occurred.
Tell us a bit about how did you gain access to the premises, Andrew?
Yeah, a pretty common one is that we went up a ladder onto a balcony, up onto a second-storey balcony, and we had to gain access through a window to get into that building.
Okay. So essentially what's happened is you've broken a window to get in, is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
And at that stage there was no issues?
No issues, no.
Okay.
That's right.
Then what happened?
I went into the building to open the front door for the Victorian police officers to come on in. We've made our way into the building, and look, I could smell some gas, what I thought was gas in the room. We've decided we needed to get out of the room, and as we went to leave the room, there was an explosion. The front door was blown shut, and the four of us were in there as the apartment engulfed in flames.
Okay.
We managed to make our way out, and yeah.
And where was the occupier of the apartment at that stage?
Oh, look, from what I remember and what I believe, and it is a little hazy, I've tried to forget it for obvious reasons, the occupier was in the bedroom at the time.
And Andrew, you suffered burns to your face?
Yeah, I did. I thankfully had on all my equipment that I could potentially have on, and so only my face was burnt. Unfortunately not the same for the VicPol members.
And you're on light duties at the moment?
I am, yeah. So, yeah, they're attempting to get me back to work, and I'm keen to get back, but...
You're suffering a bit, aren't you?
Look, initially it was really quite difficult. There's no doubt about that. It was probably more difficult for my wife. I was really concerned about her. I mean, for any wife of a firefighter, they're obviously going to worry about their husband going to work, and she's a little concerned about that, no doubt. But look, we've worked through things. We've had phenomenal support, not just from the MFB, from our union, but from the general public. It's been really overwhelming, the support we've got, and that's helped me with working through.
And you've been in the fire service for how long now?
Just under 5 years, so pretty new to the job.
You've shut it out. You've effectively, you said it when you were answering a question, that you've wanted to block out what happened. Do you still feel that way about it?
I do. Look, the hardest thing for me at the time was the VicPol members, particularly one that I helped sort of come down from the fire, and I was really concerned for her welfare. At one stage there, it was touch and go whether she'd survive, and some of the others, and so I really just attempted to block out what had happened in that situation. I just thought that was probably best for me psychologically. As a result, I found out that they're all doing quite well, which is really...
They're in a critical condition but stable.
They were,
Yes.
and now they're doing much better, and that's really helped me with my my development, I suppose. Yeah, psychologically.
Well, it raises another issue. You've come out of it, apart from psychologically, reasonably well. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. Look, yeah, it's the wounds. I mean, the Alfred Hospital were fantastic. I went to the Royal Melbourne originally, and they were really great about it. My wife was fantastic at every 2 hours, putting creams and lotions and cleaning, and it's pulled up really quite well in comparison. And from what I understand, same for the police members as well. They've healed up really well. So we're quite lucky in that regard. Yeah, definitely.
Greg, the outfits you wear, they're fire resistant
Yeah, that's correct.
and they breathe.
They do breathe. They have to breathe. However, in doing so, we are exposed to the carcinogens and the gases, the toxic smoke.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Viewers, we've got to go to a break. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll come back to this enthralling discussion with Greg and Andrew. Viewers, welcome back to the show. In our worst bushfire season in many years, since Black Saturday, and it's actually worse because we've had a lot of days over 40 degrees, we're very fortunate to have Greg and Andrew on the show, two, I say hero firefighters, because they are. Just before the break, Andrew, I asked you, how many toxins are there in an average house fire? Do you know that?
Look, I didn't initially know this, and I've only just found this out recently, that apparently about 70,000 carcinogenics.
Does it cross your mind that when you join the firefighters, that they say to you, it's a dangerous job, dangerous occupation, but usually when you hear the word dangerous, you assume they're talking about fires. You don't think they're talking about the toxins and the chemical soup that you attend every time you go to a house fire?
Tony, look, certainly when I joined, there were no warnings about carcinogens as such. That was 28 years ago. So the dangers inherently associated with firefighting, yeah, you're aware of those. But in regards to cancer, no.
Okay.
I suppose probably on that, Tony, is that we are really well looked after in terms of our health. I mean, there's a lot of policies put in place to look after us. A lot of people don't know, but we'd be one of the leading fire brigades in the world
Yes.
in terms of the work that we do and the safety we've got. But there is just so many unexpecteds that you just cannot avoid. I mean, for example, you go to a car fire. Now, you might not be actually at the fire. You might be at the truck controlling the pump. Next thing you know, the smoke swings around and you've got yourself a lung full of smoke from a car, and you can only imagine what's sort of in a car.
But
Things
Andrew,
like that.
the point I'm trying to make is this. You start with the firefighters and they say it's dangerous, but they don't explain what the word dangerous means. You start with firefighters and you're generally a lot fitter than the average person in society. That's a fact. But after 5 years, your fitness drops off significantly because you've just explained why. John, would you enter the firefighters with what you know about what they go through and the average risks?
No, Tony. I mean, it's a dangerous occupation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Andrew and Greg, it's a dangerous occupation. And in my view, you're a hero because you're doing that, because you're protecting society from the ills of society, and especially, you're dealing with a lot of people that are not quite right. Fires that have started because of one reason or another. Tony, the firebug issue is a big
massive
issue, isn't it, Tony?
It is.
And at the same time, this is why, we support this campaign for presumptive laws to make sure that whatever toxins that have produced cancer that you've inhaled, it's presumed that you've suffered this in your work. And at the moment, the Victorian government, the Liberal Victorian government, is not supporting this, Tony.
No.
And they've got an election coming up in November.
Yes.
This is a pivotal election issue.
It is a
now,
big issue.
every person that supports the work of the firefighters, and that's nearly everyone, isn't it, Tony?
Yes, that's correct.
They should be supporting the firefighters on this, shouldn't they, Tony?
Exactly. Greg, just on the issue of Brian Potter, did you know him?
I didn't know him personally, no, but
Okay.
knew of him, obviously, yeah.
He was a fire chief at Fiskville,
Yep,
and there was an absolute cocktail and chemical of drugs there.
yes,
It's been proven now.
yes.
Does it surprise you that the people that worked at Fiskville have to prove their cancers and other diseases they've contracted?
I think it's ridiculous that they have to prove that on the evidence that's been put forward.
Well, we're trying to pass this presumptive legislation which the federal government's passed. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And for viewers, some of the stats, and this is from various studies that have been conducted around the world, a firefighter's qualifying period for primary site brain cancer is only 5 years. Leukemia, 5 years. Kidney cancer, which is what Greg's fighting at the moment, and he's had one of his kidneys removed, presumption's 15 years. He's been in the firefighters for 28 years. So if the legislation was in place, he wouldn't have this fight. He'd be compensated like he should, and there wouldn't be an issue. And mind you, it's a job that most people wouldn't do. Isn't that correct, John?
Exactly. It's a tough job. South Australia, Western Australia, these states, the federal government, Commonwealth, all these states have presumptive legislation. The United States of America, Tony, Canada, all these countries have it.
Exactly.
And Victoria, the NAPFI and Liberal government don't want to support that. It's a disgrace. It's extraordinary, isn't it,
Look, the
Tony?
bill was lost only by 2 votes, but I mean, you know, hopefully they'll put it again.
I mean, to give people an understanding as to what presumptive legislation means to a firefighter, a lot of fire stations around Melbourne, you'll see plaques set up. Some are young, some are old, remembering a firefighter who's died from a cancer.
Yep.
We have them around, and they're a real reminder of the risk of the job. In terms of Brian Potter, I mean, to stress the importance of presumptive legislation, he spent the last few years of his life having to fight to get compensation when, you know, I think if I was in that situation, I'd like to spend the last 2 years with my family, not having to worry about fighting to get that sort of coverage. So for most firefighters, it's a scary thought to think that your family won't be protected, you know, in the incidents where something like this happens, I suppose. So,
And Andrew, he took on the fight for all the firefighters.
absolutely.
Yeah, in the end, it was really him challenging the system.
Yep. So, I mean, you know, for us, we really hope that people, or the public will support us and get out and petition their local politicians when it comes to election time, things like that.
Andrew, in your day-to-day job, okay, you went to a house fire, or really it wasn't even a house fire, you went to assist the police to get someone out of their apartment. Mm-hmm. What about all the other jobs where you go, car accidents? Tell us a bit about those.
Oh, look, you could go to a car accident, you could go to, I mean, well, a lot of what we do these days is a medical job as well, you go to things like that. I mean, I suppose just to get across the stuff that we see in the job and we do in the job, it's not what your average citizen would want to be doing or seeing, especially the medical stuff. And police and ambulance also go to that kind of things. Suicides are quite frequent and, you know, it's not a nice thing to see, there's no doubt about it.
Well, in the incident you're involved in, the biggest consequence for you is the post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to put to you is this. John, changes to the transport accident laws. It's a minefield, isn't it?
Yes, it makes a claim by a firefighter almost virtually impossible now.
Or policemen.
For
policewomen.
damages. Anyone involved in a transport accident or the use of, Tony, now it's impossible, isn't it?
It is getting harder. You've got to, Greg, you've got to show that you were attending the incident where someone might have been killed or severely maimed. It's got to affect your social, recreation and capacity to work. So you wouldn't know that, would you?
No.
No.
But
I
not
didn't know
only that, a continuous period of treatment for 3 years, Tony.
Well, just on that note, John, I mean, you're a
ludicrous.
specialist in transport accidents. You might
Yeah.
want to say a few words about getting people on board if they get stuck out there.
Well, you've suffered a serious injury. You've seen this horrific injury. These changes by, again, the Victorian Liberal government have made it virtually impossible for people to make these claims.
But it's raised the issue of having to contact a lawyer even more pertinent these days.
Exactly.
You know, without proper advice, you've got Buckley's chance of really succeeding. So it's important that people do seek legal advice. Look, I want to thank you, Greg and Andrew. You're both heroes in my eyes anyway. I'm sure the public see it that way.
Yes,
For
exactly.
coming on the show. No, I'd love to get you on in the future. The legislation will come in. I can bet your bottom dollar on that one, Greg.
Yeah, hopefully.
And you'll win your case. I'm sure that there's enough people there supporting you. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Tony. And viewers, We welcome your comments on Facebook, on Twitter, on our social sites. This is a hot topic that we think is very important, Tony.
Also go to our past episodes, Facebook. Stay tuned for future episodes, and always remember to stay safe.